The first time I met Mason, he was trying to rescue a panicked kestrel tangled in wire fencing. His hands were scratched and bleeding, but his face lit up the second I walked over to help. That moment stuck with me. Something about him felt safe, steady, even with blood dripping from his knuckles. My name is Alex. I'm 33 years old, and at the time, I was halfway through a wildlife rehabilitation internship at a bird sanctuary just outside Sacramento. Mason, 35, was a visiting writer doing a long-form piece on sanctuary work. We started talking after the kestrel incident and didn't stop. Every afternoon turned into coffee, which turned into dinners, which turned into him walking me home. It was easy, comfortable, a little too fast, maybe, but I didn't care. 3 months later, he invited me to visit his place up north for the weekend. I figured it'd be a cozy cabin in Humboldt County. Instead, it was a neat 2-bedroom rental in Santa Rosa, with crayon drawings taped to the fridge and a pink stuffed giraffe on the couch. Mason?" I asked as he fiddled with the front door. "Are we not alone?" He paused, half smiling. "I should have told you. There's someone I want you to meet." And that's when I met Emily. 4 years old, bright eyes, braids half undone. She ran into the living room like a cannonball and stopped dead when she saw me. "Is she your friend?" she asked, clutching the giraffe. Mason laughed nervously. "Yes, this is Alex. Can you say hi?" I stared at him. My chest felt tight, confused. A kid? He had a kid? We'd spent 3 months talking about birds and books and music. Not once had he mentioned a daughter. He must have seen the look on my face because he pulled me aside while Emily went to grab a juice pouch. "I didn't mean to hide her," he said. I've messed things up before by leading with this. I wanted you to know me first." "I don't even know what to say," I whispered. "You lied by omission." "I know. I'm sorry. Please don't go." I almost did. I came this close to walking out the door. But then Emily tugged my sleeve and offered me half her juice. "You want the red straw?" I saved the red one. That was the beginning. Over the next year, I found myself more and more tangled in her world. Birthday cupcakes, ballet recitals, sticky fingers on my jeans. Mason apologized again, and every time, I softened just enough to stay. By the time I turned 35, Emily called me her almost mom. By 37, I legally was. We married in 2019 in a backyard ceremony with sunflowers and hawks flying overhead. In 2022, I gave birth to our son, Jonah. For a while, it felt like we had built something solid, something earned. Not perfect, but real. I wasn't Emily's biological mother, but I was there for scraped knees and spelling tests and stomach bugs at 2 a.m. I chose them, both of them. I believed I was building a loyal, lasting home. I had no idea what was coming. Mason said he wanted to write full-time. It wasn't a surprise, not exactly. He'd been floating the idea since Jonah was born. Something about needing space to finish his novel, how staying home with the kids would free his mind and let the words flow. I'd just been promoted to lead FALCONER at the Baywood Raptor Sanctuary, and the job came with a salary bump and a company truck. The timing made sense. I said yes. Back then, I really believed we were a team. The first few months felt good. I'd leave in the mornings to the sound of Mason and Jonah laughing in the kitchen, toys rattling across the floor. Emily, now 10, would wave from the breakfast table, her hair always half-brushed and wild. Mason packed lunches, folded laundry, read bedtime stories. He kept a notebook tucked under his arm most days, always scribbling when Jonah napped. Creative meetings, he'd tell me when he left the house in the afternoons. Or just clearing my head. I believed him. I wanted to believe him. But things shifted slowly, subtly. First it was the missed calls. I'd ring to check in, and he wouldn't answer. Then came the disappearing acts. He'd leave the house for errands and come back hours later, sometimes empty-handed. I'd ask where he'd gone, and he'd smile like I was being silly. Coffee shop. Writing stuff. You know. Except I didn't. Not anymore. It was little things at first. Dishes left half-washed. Jonah's bath skipped 2 nights in a row. Emily telling me she made her own dinner because Mason was working in the garage. But the moment that stuck with me, the one I couldn't shake, happened on a Thursday. I'd left work early because of a sudden storm. Thunder had spooked the hawks, and we called off the flight demonstrations. When I got home, the house was oddly quiet. No cartoons, no clatter, no Mason. I walked into the kitchen. Jonah sat on the floor, shirtless, holding a soggy granola bar in one hand and an empty bottle in the other. He looked up at me with wet cheeks and a trembling lip. His diaper sagged, so low it nearly hit the floor. "Where's Daddy?" I asked softly, scooping him up. He didn't answer, just leaned into me and sobbed. I stepped outside and saw Mason, standing barefoot in the side yard, laughing into his phone like it was the best conversation he'd had in weeks. He didn't notice me at first. He just kept talking, face lit up in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. My heart dropped. That night, I asked him straight out, "You left our baby crying on the floor so you could talk on the phone?" He blinked, surprised, then shrugged. "It was just a minute. He's fine, isn't he?" I wanted to believe it was just a minute. I wanted to believe he was still trying. But deep down I knew something wasn't right, and I was finally ready to stop pretending otherwise. It happened on a Sunday afternoon. The sun was just beginning to dip behind the trees, throwing amber light through the windows. I was in the kitchen, trying to coax Jonah into eating something more substantial than Cheerios. Mason was outside again, pacing in the side yard with his phone glued to his ear, laughing. Jonah whimpered and pulled at his bib. I glanced at the high chair tray. The banana slices were untouched. His cheeks were flushed, and I could feel the dampness of sweat on his neck. His little belly growled when I picked him up. That was it. I opened the back door with Jonah on my hip. "Mason." He turned, startled, then smiled, wide and casual, like I hadn't just found our toddler sweaty and hungry and alone. "Hey, I'll call you right back," he said into the phone, not breaking eye contact with me. Yeah, she's here." "Okay." I didn't wait. I lunged forward and snatched the phone straight out of his hand. "Alex, what the hell?" I ignored him. I backed into the house, slammed the door shut, and locked it. My hands were shaking as I placed Jonah in his playpen. He started to fuss, confused, but I gently kissed his forehead and whispered, "Just give me a minute, baby. Just 1 minute." Then I sat down on the living room rug with Mason's phone and opened everything. Call logs, messages, emails. I don't know what I expected. Maybe nothing. Maybe some vague hint that my gut wasn't wrong. But what I found was so much worse. Claire. Her name popped up over and over. Text from months back. A voice memo where he told her he couldn't stop thinking about her. Screenshots of photos I hadn't taken. A blurry image of Jonah playing in the yard. Another of our living room at night. And then the one that stopped my breath cold. A picture of our bed, clearly rumpled, time-stamped from a Tuesday. I'd worked a double shift. They'd been seeing each other for at least 6 months. Talking every day. Meeting while I was working late or out at school events with Emily. One message from Claire read, "Still can't believe we got away with it in your own house. Feels naughty." He brought her here. He brought her into our home. Mason started pounding on the door. "Alex, come on, open the damn door. What are you doing?" I didn't answer. I just kept reading, scrolling, letting the fire rise in my chest until it hurt to breathe. From the stairs, I heard the creak of a step. I turned. Emily was sitting halfway down, her legs tucked under her, silent. Watching. She didn't say a word. Just stared at me, her face blank. Almost like she knew. Like she had known for a while. Downstairs, Mason kept shouting, rattling the door handle. But I didn't move. I just sat there, surrounded by silence and proof, and the ruin of the life I thought I had built. I didn't open the door until after I'd read every message twice, maybe 3 times. By then, Mason had stopped knocking. He was sitting on the porch step, head in his hands, like the weight of his own actions had finally started to sink in. When I let him in, I didn't say a word. I just handed him his phone. He didn't look at it. "I was going to tell you," he said quietly. I folded my arms. "When?" He rubbed his face. "I don't know. I didn't think it would go this far." I laughed, short and bitter. "Go how far?" The texts? The photos in our bed? The part where she called Jonah, our little distraction? He flinched. "Alex, it wasn't serious." My voice cracked, not from tears, but from the effort of holding them in. "You brought her into our home." He looked up at me, desperate. "It was a mistake. A stupid, selfish." "How long?" He hesitated. "How long, Mason?" 6 months. I shook my head slowly. "And she was here, in this house, with our son." He didn't deny it. Didn't even try. I felt something shift in my chest. Not anger. Not heartbreak. Just the cold realization that the man I trusted most could lie that easily. Behind us, the stairs creaked again. Emily stood there, arms crossed, lips tight. She looked tired. Not like a child caught up in something, but like someone who had been holding a secret too long. You already knew about Claire, right? She asked. Mason and I both turned to look at her. What? I said slowly. You already knew. That's why you were mad, she said, as if it explained everything. So why are you still yelling? Mason stood quickly. It's not your fault. Did she come here when I was at school? I asked. Emily shrugged. Sometimes. My breath caught. She bought me makeup, Emily said, her voice almost smug. And earrings. Real ones. Not that plastic stuff you get at Target. I stepped toward her, cautiously. Emily, did you know this whole time? Her chin jutted forward. She treats me like I'm older. Like I matter. Not like I'm stupid or in the way all the time. I didn't know what to say. I had never heard her talk like that before. Then she delivered the final blow. You're not even my real mom. The words hit like glass. Clean. Sharp. Instant. I swallowed. I know I'm not. But I've been here. Every day. I chose to be. Yeah, she said, looking away. Well, you didn't have to. She turned and walked upstairs without waiting for a response. Mason didn't move. He just stood there, jaw tight, staring at the spot where Emily had been. I didn't look at him. I couldn't. I went to Jonah's room, picked him up from his crib, and held him so tightly he fussed. I whispered, it's okay, even though nothing was. The house was too quiet, like it was holding its breath. But in my chest, something had cracked wide open, not just grief, but a deep, full knowing. This wasn't just betrayal. This was collapse. I left that night. No yelling, no packing speeches. Just a quiet kind of panic. I buckled Jonah into his car seat, grabbed a duffel bag, and drove until the streetlights faded behind me. I didn't know where I was going until I realized my hands had already taken me to my sister's driveway. Maya opened the door in pajamas, mascara smudged from sleep. She looked at me, then at Jonah, and didn't ask a single question. Just stepped aside and said, come in. Her house sat at the edge of a long gravel road, surrounded by nothing but fence posts and tall, sighing grass. The quiet there was different, heavier, but safe. For the first few days, I barely left the guest room. I nursed Jonah when he cried and laid next to him the rest of the time, staring at the ceiling and drinking. I wasn't trying to numb the pain. I was trying to slow it down, to dull the edge just long enough to get through a single hour, then another. I left my phone on Do Not Disturb and ignored the vibrating bursts of calls from Mason. Even Emily tried once, just once, but I let it ring until it stopped. Maya knocked every evening, left food I didn't touch, asked questions I didn't answer. And then, on the 6th day, she didn't knock. She opened the door, flicked the bedside lamp on, and sat on the edge of the bed. You're a mess, she said, not unkindly. And you don't get to stay here if you're going to drink yourself into a hole while that baby watches. I didn't respond. I'm serious, Alex. You need to get up. Shower. Eat. Make a plan. Grieve later, but not in front of him. She stood and pointed toward the door. You don't have to forgive anyone. You don't even have to talk to me. But you will act like a mother. That's when I cried. Not quiet tears, but full, shaking sobs that racked my whole body. Maya didn't hug me, didn't say it was going to be okay. She just stood there until I was done. Then she left me alone. The next morning, I threw out every bottle in the house. I called a lawyer during Jonah's nap. I froze our joint checking account, locked Mason out of the savings. I canceled every automatic payment, especially Emily's horseback lessons, ballet tuition, and subscription boxes that came monthly in pastel packaging. I wrote one final message before I blocked them both. To Emily, ask Claire to be your mother now. I hit send and turned my phone off completely. It was the pettiest thing I'd done in years. And also the most honest. I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel better. But I felt still. And for the first time since the moment Mason handed me a juice-stained apology and asked me to stay years ago, I said no. Not out loud, but with every single thing I chose not to do. Let them call it cruel if they want. I called it survival. It was a Tuesday morning when I unblocked Emily. I don't know why that day exactly. Jonah was asleep on my chest, breathing slow and soft, and the house was quiet. Not the broken kind of silence I'd been drowning in weeks earlier, but something else. Something less bitter. I stared at her name in my phone for a long time before I tapped unblock. I didn't send anything. That night, she texted, Emily, can I ask you something? I stared at the screen for a full minute. Then I typed back, go ahead. She didn't answer right away. A few hours passed before the next message came through. Emily, did you really mean it? When you said to ask Claire to be my mom now? My throat tightened. I wanted to take it back. I also wanted to double down. Instead, I told the truth. I was angry. I felt like I didn't matter to you anymore. A typing bubble appeared, disappeared, then came back. Emily, I didn't know what to do. He told me not to say anything. I hesitated. Mason? Emily, yeah? He said you'd freak out, that you'd overreact and ruin everything. There it was. My chest felt like it caved in a little. Emily. He gave me a necklace and a new phone case. He said if I stayed quiet, he'd get me those earbuds I wanted. I didn't know what to say. Emily. He told me Claire might be my real mom. That maybe there was a mix-up or something. I blinked. What? Emily. He said it like a joke, but not really. I stared at the message, heart racing. I had raised that girl, brushed her hair every morning, taught her to tie her shoes, sat beside her through math worksheets and stomach bugs. And somewhere in all that, Mason was whispering doubts into her ear. He didn't just betray me. He dismantled me. Emily sent one more message. Emily, I'm sorry. I knew you were my mom. I got confused. And I wanted him to like me. And I didn't want to lose both of you. I sat in the dark, crying so quietly I barely noticed. Not the kind of crying that needs comfort. The kind that just leaks out because there's too much pain to hold. The next day, Mason called. I didn't plan on answering, but I did. I guess you talked to Emily, he said flatly. She told me everything. I said, including the part where you told her Claire might be her real mother. He exhaled sharply. It wasn't like that. Then explain it. Silence. I didn't mean for it to get that far, he finally said. That far. I repeated. You lied to a child to poison her against me. I didn't poison her, he snapped. I was trying to protect her. From the fallout. From you blowing up the whole family. I laughed. A sharp, empty sound. You set the fire, Mason. I just stopped pretending I didn't smell smoke. She needed someone to talk to, he muttered. Claire was just someone who got it. Someone who wasn't judging me all the time. You were supposed to be a father. A partner. Not a ghost with a phone and a secret life. I made a mistake. No, I said coldly. You made a choice. Over and over. He didn't argue. I hung up before he could say more. There was nothing left I needed to hear. That night, I sat outside with Jonah curled against me and texted Emily. If you want to talk, really talk. I'm here. I don't have all the answers. But I'm still your mom. If you want me to be. The reply came within seconds. Emily, I do. Something broke. Something opened. And for the first time since it all fell apart, I let a little hope in Deanna. We agreed to meet at the park near the middle school, the one with the faded green picnic tables and the walking trail that curved around the pond. Neutral ground. Familiar, but not too close to home. I got there early. Jonah sat beside me in his stroller, dozing off with his blanket clutched in one fist. The air smelled like sun-warmed mulch and grass clippings. Kids shrieked near the swings. I kept checking my phone, even though I had nothing new to look at. When Emily finally arrived, she came alone, walking slowly, arms crossed. She'd grown taller. Her face was sharper now, the soft roundness replaced by something in between childhood and teenage distance. But her eyes? Still the same cautious blue. She sat on the other side of the table without saying a word. I gave her space. Minutes passed. A bee buzzed between us and floated off again. Finally, she whispered, I thought you hated me. I blinked. No, I was hurt. I still am. But I never hated you. She looked down at her hands. You blocked me. You said to ask Claire to be my mom. I know, I said quietly. And I wish I hadn't. That wasn't fair. You were a kid in the middle of something awful. She didn't say anything, just picked at a loose thread on her sleeve. I shouldn't have turned away from you, I went on. I let my pain speak for me. I let the betrayal swallow everything else. But none of it, is your fault. She nodded. I still lowered. Then her voice cracked. He made me feel like I had to pick. I know, I said. And I'm so sorry. She wiped her nose with the back of her hand, then finally looked up at me. I never stopped loving you, she whispered. Even when I said that stuff. I didn't mean it. I didn't know who to believe. I swallowed hard. I should have been the one to make sure you didn't have to choose in the first place. She scooted closer. Not all the way, but enough. I didn't want Claire, she mumbled. I just wanted someone to act like they saw me. My throat tightened. I see you, Emily. I always have. That's when she reached out. One hand on mine. Light. hesitant. "I miss home," she said. "It's still here," I whispered. "Whatever it looks like now, you're still part of it." We didn't hug right away. We just sat there, hands connected on the table, both a little stunned by how much had cracked but hadn't crumbled completely. Later, she pushed Jonah's stroller around the path while I walked beside her. We talked about her new math teacher, her old dance shoes, the falcon chick that hatched last spring. We stayed there for hours. When it was time to leave, she looked up at me and said, "Can I come again tomorrow?" I nodded. "Yeah, tomorrow's good." It wasn't everything. Not yet. But it was a beginning, slow, shaky, and real. And this time, I wasn't going to let anyone twist that away. We met at a coffee shop halfway between my sister's house and the old neighborhood. Neutral, public, boring. The kind of place where no one raised their voice, and no one stayed too long. That felt right. Mason was already there when I arrived, sitting at a table by the window, nursing a black coffee and fidgeting with a sugar packet. He looked thinner, grayer, like guilt had started aging him faster than time. I didn't sit down right away. I took a breath, adjusted Jonah's carrier across my chest, and reminded myself that this wasn't a conversation, it was a boundary. "Hey," Mason said quietly. "Let's just talk," I replied, sitting across from him. "We've got half an hour." He nodded, swallowed. "You look good." I raised an eyebrow. "Don't." He looked down, folding the sugar packet in half again and again until it split open. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. For Claire. For what I did to you. To Emily. I ended it, just so you know. Months ago." I didn't flinch. "Not for me," I said. "For you." He blinked. "What? You didn't end it for me. You ended it because you got caught." Silence stretched between us, broken only by the low hiss of the espresso machine. "I've been seeing a therapist," he added, like it might earn him some kind of point. "Good," I said. "Keep going." He looked hopeful for a second, like maybe there was still something to salvage. Then I kept talking. "Let me make this clear, Mason. I'm not here to fight. I'm not even here to punish you. But I won't let you back in just because you finally realized you don't like being alone." His face stiffened. "So this is permanent." "This is respectful," I said. "You can see Jonah. We'll work out custody. But everything from here on out, parenting schedules, school decisions, even pickup times, goes in writing. You show up on time. You don't lie. You don't manipulate. And if you pull anything like you did before, I'll file for full custody." His jaw tightened. "So I have to prove myself now." "You always did," I said. "You just didn't realize it because I never demanded it." He looked out the window. "Emily's been asking if we'll ever be a family again." "We are a family," I said. "But not in the way you want." He didn't argue. Maybe he finally knew it wouldn't work anymore. "I still love you," he said quietly, almost like he didn't want to hear himself say it. "I believe you," I replied. "But I don't trust you." That landed harder than anything else. He sat back in his chair, quiet. I stood up, adjusting Jonah on my chest as he stirred in his sleep. "For what it's worth," I added, "I hope you get better. But not for me. Not for some future version of us. Just because I think you owe it to yourself. And to her." He nodded, hollow. "Yeah." As I walked away, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt steady. For the first time in a long time, I was no longer the one being reeled back in by apologies or promises. This time, I left on my own terms. The first morning back at the sanctuary, I arrived before the sun did. The gravel crunched under my boots like it used to, and the air smelled the same. Dry grass, old feathers, pine sap, and something sharp and clean in the wind. Familiar. Honest. Like nothing here had ever lied to me. Jonah was with Maya for the day, and Emily was meeting me later after school. I told her she could come if she wanted. She didn't hesitate. The staff had already unlatched the flight pins and checked the weight logs, but they waited for me before working with the new female falcon, a wiry juvenile with pale eyes and a streak of dark along her neck like smeared ink. We hadn't named her yet. I like that. She stood still on her perch, talons twitching, feathers lifting slightly in the wind. I lifted my glove and let her study me. No rush. No force. Just a quiet understanding that trust takes time. That was the rhythm of this place. Nothing rushed, nothing fake. If a bird flew away, you waited. If it came back, you earned it. Midday, Emily showed up. She walked slowly along the gravel path, arms folded tight across her middle, a backpack slung half open behind her. When she spotted me in the training field, she smiled, just barely, and took a seat on the log bench near the fence. She didn't interrupt, just watched as I whistled softly and sent the falcon into the sky. The bird climbed high, circled once, and then again, faster this time, before angling downward in a clean arc. Nice turn, Emily said, almost under her breath. I looked over my shoulder. You've been watching. She nodded. You look different up there. Different how? She shrugged. Focused. Like you're not worried about anything. I thought about that. About the weeks I'd spent unraveling, doubting everything I'd ever built, including myself. And yet here I was. Not undone. Not bitter. Just back. My sister Maya arrived not long after, waving from the trail with 2 iced coffees in hand. She handed one to me, then sat next to Emily on the bench like she'd always belonged there. The 3 of us watched the falcon land smoothly on my glove, wings half outstretched, breathing hard and alive. She always circles back, I said, mostly to myself. Emily looked at me. The bird. I nodded. Most of them do. Not because they have to, because they trust the place they left. We stood in the sun a while longer, not fixing anything, not forcing anything, just being. The wind picked up, tugging strands of hair from my braid and rattling the leaves on the oaks behind us. I lifted my arm again, and the falcon launched upward, silent and sharp, cutting across the sky like she owned it. I didn't need to chase her. I just watched her go, knowing she'd return when she was ready.